Hey everyone, so in the last video we went over the bare basics of Radiant, just enough of the functions to help you guys get started in learning the toolset and getting a little bit comfortable with what you're looking at. In this video, we're going to start by making our first small custom zombies map. We're not going to finish it in this video, we're just going to get started so we can kind of play around and get used to the scale standards that we should be going by. Because if you don't get started learning the scale standards right away, you may end up making a map that looks like the micro map from the Black Ops 3 DLC pack. Unless that's what you're going for specifically, it's not going to end well for you. So we're going to practice just making sure that our scale standards are accurate. Now, as per the last video, Control+N to bring up the dialog box up, and we're going to make our first map. ZM mod level. We're going to call it ZM_cabin. Hit enter. Bring up the dialog box. OK. And then ZM cabin. Right click. Open in Radiant. Alright, so now that we're in here, we obviously only have the template, the base template. Now, the first thing that I like to do, and you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I recommend it, is we're going to get rid of the outer skybox. We can always bring it back in later, and I'll show you how when we get to there. But for right now, we just want to get rid of all of it. So we're going to go down to the bottom as well, select it, delete, and we don't want the Umbra either or the FPS tool. As far as I know, the FPS tool doesn't actually do anything in the tools either. That was more so for when they were actually making the official game. But anyways, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the skybox. We're not going to delete it. We're going to zoom out on the XY top, and we're going to just drag it out like this. Make a nice big open area, and then we're going to switch to the side view here. Just drag it up, drag it down a little bit. Just make a nice chunky sized area that you can work with. You can also do the same thing with the volume box. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you want to be able to run your map and actually run around in it, you need this volume box. This volume box tells the game, hey, the player is safe in this area. So that's what it does. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the ground and we're going to copy it and paste it. We're just going to drag it over here like this. The reason why we're doing this is because we're going to make our own little area to work with for now. That way, we can leave the template here and everything that we need for the basic setups, but we're going to kind of start making our own stuff. So, the next thing we're going to do, hit Control on your keyboard, and if you have the middle mouse button on your mouse, you should. Select it in the middle right there. It's going to automatically warp us to where we want to be. So if we're right there, we're good. Now, what I personally like to do is grab the default character and throw him in there somewhere. Zoom in on him and just spin him around to, he's facing upwards or downwards, whatever. But this is how I personally like to start my maps. You can kind of do it however you want. Now, I'm not entirely certain if this next model is going to be part of the default textures, or not textures, but models or not. But what I do is I look for blackout door frame, and I throw that thing in. I just switch the angle like that, and as you can see, it lines up perfectly with this box. And, well, it's a perfect size, right? So, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start making our wall. So we're going to go ahead and drag a mouse thing, boom. Now, obviously, if we look at the scale standards right here, let me pull this up for you guys. Which monitor is bigger here? Looks like this one. Awesome. If we go down to floors, the default is 16, but the default wall thickness is 8. So, this size right there is good, and we just want to drag this out. Now, obviously, this size, or this doesn't line up. So what we can do, we can simply take this, switch to 1 for a second if you want, and then just drag it up. Now, you can tell it's lined up when you have that one singular box on each edge going overboard for the door. Just a little bit. And then switch back to 4. And we're going to go ahead and go to textures really quickly. Select that. And then we're going to double click script wall. That way we can at least see our texture. The previous texture, this one right here, would not even load in if you tested this out. It would just, nothing would even show up. So we want to make sure we select script wall. You could also do script floor ceiling, but seeing as that's not a ceiling, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't make much sense. Now, I'm just going to drag this down a little bit. I want to make this a little bit smaller. It makes, a little bit more sense there. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this and then just drag this over like that. And you can just take a left click there, drag it back over, boom. Now it's connected. Now, the next thing we're going to want to look at is the default single story. We're going to do a default. So the interior height is 112. So if we select this and then select this, we can actually hit the Z button right there to lock the axis in and then switch our viewport to the side. Now, while we're dragging this up, pay attention to this number. You can see 112. Is that what we want? It is. So that's good. Now, what I like to do is I like to Control C, Control V to copy it. Drag this up, because if you drag it up again, it said 128 for the exterior, right? So that's basically saying the floor for the next level is there. So drag this up, and now you have a space where you know the floor is going to be. Now you can take this, unselect that, and then switch back to the normal view. Now we want to drag this out like this, so go to the y-axis and just simply drag it out a little bit. Don't have to go too far, but just enough so that you know that's the ceiling, right? Because if we select on that, that is 16. That is the default floor thickness. There we go. Now, the last thing we want to do right now is we just want to cover up the top of the door, right? So the way I would do this is simply select this, copy, paste, and then delete it with backspace. Just trust me. Because now we can click right here and drag it across. Boom. The reason why we did that is because this one is already aligned where we want it to be for above here. And that way, when we go into the grid here and just draw the brush out, it's going to align itself with the same size as the previous brush. So it makes sense. It's a quick shortcut. Same concept for this. Switch over to this view, copy, paste. But we can just kind of push this over a little bit. If we unselect the Y, just push this over. And I'm actually going to show you another trick real quick. So if you hit Control, right click on the top right there, and then while you have Control still selected, click on the bottom, you'll see it creates a purple line. Now, if you hit Enter, you'll notice it spliced itself. Now, I want to make sure I point this out real quickly. If you were to have done it this way, it would split the other side out. So just make sure that you're doing it on the right side, okay? But yeah, we're going to get rid of that for now. We don't want that. You can also simply just, if you really want to, make a cut like that, hit the Enter key. Whoops, sorry. Just make a Shift Enter, sorry. There we go. Shift Enter, and it splits it in half, but it doesn't delete either side. And then you could, delete either side if you so choose. But that's another way of doing things. Either way. The next thing we want to do is we just want to make, a nice little entryway kind of thing, right? We want to make a nice little entry. That way we can kind of see what we're looking at, right? So we're going to go ahead and copy this wall and paste it. And then we're going to just flip it like that. That way we have a nice, simple wall. Just drag it in a little bit. I'm going to keep it on this line right here just because, organizational purposes. But let's just bring it out to about there. Does that look nice? I think so. We'll copy him, paste him, flip him around. And then, yeah, that looks like it would be nice. Because, obviously there'd be a small little wall there to support the next room or show you that there's another room over here. So we can now bring him over. And then I like to personally give him a little bit of a gap. Take this, copy, paste, same thing, just leave a little bit of a gap right there. And now you have an entry to a room on the side if you so chose. The next thing we're going to make is a staircase. Now, as the walls and floors have, there is a staircase metric. So what we're going to do is a basic default stairs. That's just for now. So the rise is going to be 8 and the run is going to be 12. If you don't know what that means, it basically just means that it's going to be 8 units high. So just like that. But the run is going to be 12. So that means that, let me go to the right view here. That means that we're going to want to switch to like the 2 grid. And then drag this forward like this until you see the number 12 on the side over here. And if we look in the game, we can see we have a nice little step. Now, that looks like a small ass staircase, right? Because it is. So the minimal global width is actually 80. What that means is you just want to drag this across all the way until you hit 80. Boom. I'm going to toggle myself back to the 4 grid. But yeah, we now have a single staircase set up. If you want, you can align it like that if you have a little bit of OCD like I do. And then we're just going to take this, bring it over here just to give a little bit of space. Maybe even one more. You know what? Actually, we'll worry about that in a bit. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the side view here so that we can see 12 that way and then 8 up that way. We're going to hit Control-C, Control-V again to copy and paste. Now, hit the Alt key and hold it, and then left-click and drag. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to move this around. Switch to the 2 grid right quick, and you can actually just align it properly. Grab it again in the camera view, Control-V, and then just keep doing that repeatedly. And we're going to make ourselves a nice, simple staircase. Now, obviously, this looks ugly, but for right now, it's going to do the trick. And we just need it to be able to get us upstairs, so that's all that matters. Let's see. As the last trick I showed you in the previous video, line that green part up. If you notice, The green right there lines up with the staircase. We are good to go if you've done it the way that I just did. So now we have our setup of the staircase good, and we are happy. Now let's go back to the top view really quickly. We're probably going to want to actually shorten this, right? We're probably going to want to have this lined up with this staircase right here. Either that, or we're going to want to push the staircase over. I'm just going to push the staircase over because in the long run this could be beneficial. So we're just going to take that and then drag it over there, just like that. There we go. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're just going to drag this wall out just so we know, we have a nice little wall there and all that. Okay? Now, let's make the exterior wall so that we can kind of start making our first window. How far do we want this to go out? I think this line right here should suffice for now. And then we'll just make sure that our floor does the same concept. There we go. Now, we're going to make the window right about here, give or take a few inches, right? So, documents, let's see, where is the windows? So the default window is what we're going to go with. It's going to have a default still height of 32 and a width of 56. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go right on this line and then split it like that. Because now, what I can do is split it here as well. Even though this may not be the correct size, it'll help us start out. So we want a width of, 56, right? So we can just make that smaller, boom, just like that. And now we have a perfectly sized gap. Just close these two off just like that. Select on this, and we're going to drag this down to a 32 because that's the still height. Now, copy and paste this, drag it up. And then what's the height for this? 64. Okay. We're going to drag this up to 64. Now, copy and paste, and then just simply drag it up like that. Drag this bottom part up to match that, and then select in the camera, delete. You now have a perfectly good sized window. It's not going to be the greatest window, and you'll be working with it later, but this at least tells us right here that we have a window. Now at this point, I could go on for the next 20 to 30 minutes repeating the same thing over and over again. I don't think any of you guys want to see that. Plus, you probably want to make your own layout for your cabin. So that's what I'm going to do, is let you guys build your own cabin. Just take what you've learned so far and just see what you can do. Make a first floor, and if you want to, make a second floor. In the next video, I will cover terrain patches and a few other things. And hopefully we can get this, cabin looking like it's a cabin soon. There is a bit of a process to it, like I said, but we just want to make sure that none of you guys feel overwhelmed. So we're going to take things slowly and build ourselves up. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like rating. If you didn't like it, well, hit the dislike button. At least comment below why you didn't like it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, comments again. And if you want to see more from me, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, thanks for watching. My name is TJ, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.